Hey guys, special podcast this time. I actually deleted the podcast that I updated yesterday because I could not stand the sound on my home setup. I kind of recorded it quickly this weekend and it just drove me nuts. But a couple weeks ago, I actually got to participate at a professional radio studio with professional mics and record a podcast, a little bit of marketing, and also about Refs Need Love too. So I'm going to post that one here. I have the permission of the marketing madmen who allowed me to take the content that we created together and post it onto my channel. I think it came out really great. The first half of that marketing madmen show was more about kind of marketing and what I do in business to business marketing and AI and technology. But I'm just going to post the referee content here about the Refs Need Love 2 brand. If you want to hear that other content, shoot me a DM and I'll post the other half of the show too. Thank you so much for your support. And I hope this sound is much better than my crap I posted the other day.
Now back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3 FM.
Welcome back to the Marketing Madmen. Nick Constantino and Trip Job here with David Gerson of TK Elevator. And you know, one of the things that's really become pervasive, I think in corporate America more than even the local markets, is this work-life balance. I think a lot of people are returning to the office after working from home and getting comfortable, and that drastic change is, you know, we had the great resignation and now it's the great stagnation, and everyone's coming up with new words even though it's only been like 6 months that have passed. But that work-life balance and finding passion points and projects that you enjoy out of the office. And I think the good ones, those skills transfer to work, because it's always about making a living. And I think if you really enjoy a passion project, when that spills over into your work life, I think that's a good thing. I think having children makes you more compassionate towards others. I think all those things. But talk a little bit about Refs Need Love 2. Talk a little bit about your passion, your side project, and talk about what it's done to help you in your professional world and at TKE.
Well, first I will say, who doesn't have a side hustle in this day and age in technology?
Well, that's mine. Hey, we're talking about, I'm fortunate I've got a company that encourages me to do this, you know, so It's once a week. It's great.
I mean, people rent out their house, they rent out their car, they rent out services. My wife has like 5-6 different little jobs and businesses. So I have a side hustle, if you will. I don't know if that's the right call, or a passion project. So I have been a soccer referee for a little over 8 years, and I've reffed over 1,000 games. And for a while, I thought I was going to write a book about youth soccer in America. I did.
Soccer parents?
Yeah, well, as a parent, as a coach, as a ref, you know, just watching the landscape and the crazy, weird thing that's happened in youth soccer in this country and the largest sport of the world. And then about 18, 19 months ago, you know, my kids had TikTok at the time, and I filmed my wife doing a funny thing, wearing my ref uniform. She was getting ready for a movie, and it went viral. And I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. You know, maybe I can do this again. And so I started making some additional referee videos that were funny about being a ref and funny comebacks. And then about, I'd say 3 or 4 weeks into this little project, I had a young referee reach out to me saying that they were racially abused during a match. And they wanted to know, you know, how to deal with it and how to respond to it. And then as I dealt with that situation, I got more and more of these people reaching out, dealing with referee abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, constantly, you know, happening. And so it started to take on a life of its own. And so that began this channel called Refs Need Love 2, where I set out to humanize the referee or officials in the eyes of the players and the fans. And what started as kind of a funny little thing has now become a global brand that has a website and merch and podcast. Wow. I've got about 130,000 followers around the world, subscribers. My videos get viewed between 5 and 10 million times a week. But I dive into all sorts of different topics. Maybe it's laws of the game. Maybe it's, you know, how to be a new referee and starting out. And sometimes it's dealing with racism. I mean, here we are at the Fan and Sports Radio and seeing what's happening to Vinicius Jr. in La Liga and being racially abused and talking about that and bringing eyes on it, and also about the referee's perspective and how they deal with it as well. But it has been hilarious, absolutely wild. I go to soccer fields now and I am like a semi rock star. I was at Home Depot the other day and I was pushing my cart into Home Depot after just finishing a couple of matches, and some guy slams on his brakes and yells out the window, "Refs need love too." And this is not the first time that's happened to me. So I go to soccer fields. I have kids, parents, coaches want to take pictures with me. They love that a referee who's traditionally been behind a wall, you know, walled off, can't speak, has no perspective, has no social media presence whatsoever. They're supposed to be perfect, and they're the judge. They can't talk, and now they have a referee that they can ask questions to, they can interact with, help explain what's happened to the team that they love. Was it the right call? Could it have been different? All that kind of stuff. And then there's the humanization that we are people, that we have families, that I am a dad, I am someone's son, I'm a brother. There might be someone's mother, daughter on that field. I mean, it's just completely been so eye-opening
really
to see the love for it.
I was telling Nick, my college-age son just started this week baseball umpiring.
There you go.
So he's gotten all trained, and he's starting off, and I coached, much like you did, baseball and basketball. So I know what he's in for.
Yeah. And I think it draws parallels. Like, we have gotten too crazy with youth sports.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you are a Major League Baseball umpire and you are getting paid for that to be your career, like, you should be able to get yelled at. Like, let's be fair, that's what it is. Like the ref at a basketball game, you sit in the floor seats, and if you heard the things that were being said to those referees, I mean, it should not even be aired on television, should be put in your children, let alone.
Right.
But when you are talking about 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old kids, that the parents are yelling at the referees, it shows how broken this has all become, right? That's not helping the children develop and get further. So I like that you're doing it, but I also like that you're making kids a voice to let these kids know that that's not okay.
Yeah,
that these are not the ways to be treated. There are ways you should stand up for yourself.
So there's two things. So that professional referee has security. So they know that if someone comes onto the court, there's going to be security that's going to come protect them. At a youth sporting event or a semi-professional event, there is no such security. You are on your own.
Yeah.
You are on your own. And so I don't agree that those words should be thrown at a referee. I think it's awful, and those people should be escorted out of facility. I think, what's happening to, Valencia right now, where people have been yelling these horrible racist things to players on the pitch. I don't think that's acceptable. I don't think it's a safe zone where you can go to a sporting event and just act like an imbecile and be rude, and that's okay.
Well, there
I just
were
want to say
fans,
that.
I forget which Europa League match or whatever, where it came in and when it attacked the visiting fans in their section.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, I mean, booing a
ridiculous.
ref when he made a bad call.
I hear you.
When the ball goes the wrong way and you boo a ref, like, that's part of the basketball experience.
I totally understand. There's
and that's the home
outbursts
field
of
advantage
passion.
too, to some extent.
I think, again, for 99.99% of sporting events that are youth sporting events or what we call grassroots, there is no such protection. They're not getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're sacrificing their time away from their families to provide this service to the community. And yes, they're being compensated, but it's not paying a lot of money. No. The problem is those words become actions. Yeah. So when you're a referee and you're on that pitch and you're on your own, or you're on the baseball diamond or on your basketball court, when someone keeps on yelling and you ignore them, so they're not getting a reaction out of you, the blood boils. They go into that reptilian brain and they think, okay, well, if he's not going to listen to my words, well, I'm going to take physical action. And that's where the verbal abuse becomes physical abuse. And it happens all the time. We lose 80% of our officials within 3 years, and the number one reason they give is the abuse they receive from spectators, players, and coaches. That is the number one reason.
So whose job is it to regulate that? Because this always comes down to the ultimate thing, right? You can't put a cop there. These cops are overstrained.
Of course.
So who is there?
So
what is the etiquette?
When I was on the baseball board in Roswell, I mean, that was something we talked about routinely, and putting that word out.
The baseball board has no authority to do that.
No,
so
we did well, but
you
could. The only thing you could do was say, "Look, your kids will be basically suspended."
But then
if the parents
you're
something.
blaming the kids now for something that a parent does, which is just as bad. So
exactly.
Let's. I'm always about let's get to the solution, right? So what do you think would be some things we can do to alleviate that and to help with it?
So education is the first and foremost, of course. Again, having signage at the field, having policy at the field, of course, that these. Your kids are not professionals. The referees are not professionals.
You are not a professional, which is probably why you're yelling at your kid right now.
Teaching your parents what the proper behavior is. You are here to cheer. You're not here to coach. You've got a coach for that. The refs, coaches, you cheer your kid. That's your job. And then if someone breaks that, that there's penalties for that. And there are some states and community groups and leagues and now they're started putting policies where if you verbally abuse a referee, you now have to volunteer to ump 3 games, or you have to, referee soccer 3 games before you're allowed to come back to the field. Yeah, you cannot come back until you actually volunteer time to be a ref to see what that is. So putting policy into place, having education in place. I mean, we had great coaches for my son. We specifically went to left a club to go to another club, one club where the parents were very toxic and yelling at the players and refs all the time. We went to another club and the coach was like, you talk to the ref at all, your kid ain't playing.
And I think that's also contagious.
And that's, we're going to keep this going on the podcast in just a minute, but we're going to wrap up for the radio show. Sure. David Gerson, head of marketing at TK Elevator, thank you for joining us on the Marketing Mad Men. You can always find us on extra106.3.com. If you want to dial in, ask questions, or also if we've got some people such as David who want to be on the show. So reach out to Nick and ourselves. So thanks. Have a great week, and we'll be back next week.
All right, so
thank you.
Let's get back to it. So how, again, I think it is contagious. I think if it is allowed, if people see the behavior is allowed, then it becomes contagious because now all of a sudden you had a bad day and you might not be that guy, but all of a sudden you hear somebody else yelling and now it's you vent your frustrations there. So let's keep going down. How, look, it's marketing. These are marketing policies, how you're externally portraying yourself. So what is some advice you give to people who are dealing with this with their kids or who are that guy and don't want to be that guy? Let's keep that conversation going because I think it is really important as a sports station. I believe in the power of sports. I think it gives you the competitive spirit. I think it gets you understand how coaching works, hierarchy, leadership. I think the net positive is always positive in the sports world. But I think if we allow it to keep going to a point where parents are dominating these kids' lives and putting them in positions they shouldn't be in, that it's going to start turning the other way. So give us some more tips and advice, maybe for parents and kids, and how they can avoid those kind of situations.
Yeah, Nick, 1,000% agree in the benefit of sport. And I'm just going to say as an adult. And so in this country, so we lived in the Netherlands for a while. In Europe, they never stop playing. They play Sunday league football or they play field hockey or they go do chorus or whatnot. They're always participating in something. Here in America, it seems like we do sport for a while and then we fall out and we lose that connection. And sport is so fantastic. So I ref every weekend of my life. I run on a pitch 10 to 20 miles every single weekend. I am out there. I am participating. And it's not just the physical benefit, which has mental benefits as well, but it's that mental focus. I lose myself in that. All of the stress goes away and I can relax. And I am a better marketer at my job, at TK Elevator because I referee on the weekend, because I participate in a sport on the weekend. And I think as a kid, it's so wonderful, whether I played baseball, or I played hockey, or I played soccer, or I played rugby. I was a Division I rugby player. I was a rugby referee. Whatever it was, I loved it. I loved bonding with the teammates and the satisfaction of being out there and doing it. But what I see right now, and one of the funniest comments you hear from the peanut gallery out there, don't make it all about you, ref, is you have parents making it all about them.
Oh, absolutely.
Where they're screaming at their kid, pass, shoot, do this, switch, dun, dun, dun. They're screaming at their kid. Their kid's not having the opportunity to think, develop a basketball IQ or a soccer IQ for themselves.
Or working in the parameters of a team.
That's right. They're not listening to their
Yeah.
coach anymore. They get their parent doing it. And then you, of course, have the parent who's yelling at the referee. So what do you think the kid does? They start yelling at the referee as well. Or they start yelling at their teammates.
Or their teacher in school. Or
Oh, yeah. It is a thing. And I experience it all the time. If you have a really good coach who, lays down the boundaries of, I'm the coach, you're the player, you're the parents, we've got jobs to do, and this is how it is. You usually have kids who play to the whistle, who work as a team, who focus on what they practice during the week, and they're generally very successful. I love doing the MLS Next games. So that's the MLS academies.
Right.
I love it because they know, especially Atlanta United, they tell the parents, hey, if you yell to the kids during this match or you yell at a ref, you're off this team. They know it. And so generally those higher level academies, they lay down that law. But as you start moving down and you don't have that type of fear of being kicked off one of these academy teams, you see the parents just really just kind of going crazy. And I'm not going to say it's a universal truth, but it's a serious problem where the parents wind up being the focus of the attention, the spectacle, and they ruin it for their children.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times I used to have it coaching where they were so into it that the kids freaked out, and it created anxiety and performance for the kids because oh my God, my mom or my dad's doing this
Yeah.
in the stands.
I also think one of the most important things about sport, underrated actually, is discipline. And I think that especially when you make it to the highest level, right? Like, so I was an all-county lacrosse player in Long Island. And like the one thing that registered with me is that while I was playing sport, I was disciplined to what the coach and the team were saying, okay? So how do you expect your children to do something if you are not showing the same thing? Discipline is being mad at a ref, but shutting your freaking mouth and letting the game play. So how do you expect your children to be star athletes if one of the most important factors of being an athlete, you're not even displaying it? And it's self-control. Everyone gets angry. You have every right to get angry, but that doesn't mean you punch the guy next to you. And I think it is covering this country as a whole right now that we are letting the negative emotions outrule what our brains are saying, which is you're not an animal. Shut up, sit there, watch the game, and benefit your child because what you're doing is wrong.
And
I think that's broken
as
across
a
the board.
coach, and especially at the rec level a lot, but and a little bit of travel, but it was incumbent on me to tell all the players, you do not speak to that's my job.
Right.
And I don't care if you're the best player on the team. If I catch you bad-mouthing, talking negative to the ref, umpire, whatever the sport is, you're going to sit.
Yeah.
And you have to follow through with that, even if it's the best player and the game's tied and 4 minutes to go. You've got the coach. That's a responsibility the coach has to have for the players.
I think it's life lessons, right?
Yeah.
So when a ref makes a call that you agree with or don't agree with, arguing is not going to change the call. What you should be teaching the child, and parents should be teaching their children, is it's not what happens to you in life, it is how you respond to it. So when there is a negative situation or something you don't agree with, okay, great. How do you respond? How do you move forward? Get ready for the next play. Get focused on the next play. Wasting your time, energy, whining about something is horrible. And then at the end of the game, okay, if you lose, which always seems to happen, okay, well, it's the ref's fault. It's the ump's fault. Are you kidding? There might have been one call that you disagree with. It could have been a key match decision, no doubt.
Yeah.
But you took 30 shots on goal. You only made one, or you made none. What about those 29? Did you complete every pass? Yeah. Really? No. You completed about 60%, maybe 50% of your passes. What could you have done better to change the outcome of that match?
Yeah.
They use the official as a scapegoat, and they don't take personal responsibility.
That's become more pervasive across sport, though. Like the
well,
NBA
but
is
not
the worst
only-
example.
not only
In the
across
NBA,
sport,
I mean, the players
but-
are like, "Oh, it was 2 bad calls." Like, dude, that's a 48-minute game.
But then
you lost by 8 points.
The
I mean,
salesperson has said, well, I only made 4 calls today because, I just wasn't feeling it. Well, why didn't you make 10 calls?
Well, but that is just
I mean,
our general
that's
disdain.
no, but that's the
disdain for-
whole. One is the same as the other.
That's our
Absolutely.
general
It's-
disdain for personal accountability.
Right,
though. As a
exactly.
society, we have been driven away from personal accountability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Too far that it's not there anymore. So,
Agreed.
yeah, man, this has been awesome. I think we'll put this one out as a secondary because I think this conversation, different but topical to say the least.
Oh, I think it's great. And like I said, my son's starting. I have been asked for a while. I have not done it since I finally stopped coaching basketball when he got to college, and right about COVID. But the basketball umps for years have been asking me to do it. And I don't want to do baseball because I want to keep my summers. But it's probably the inspiration for me to say, you know what, let me go ahead and reach out to the guys and get trained this fall. Because the winter, it's perfect. For me, it's like you. It's something to keep me active in the winter.
Absolutely.
And, it's good for the community. And I think it can be good for the soul, too.
I think so.
David Gerson, Nick Constantino, Trip Job, the Marketing Madmen. And we'll catch you next week.